The House Judiciary Committee's Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government issued a report this week alleging that the FBI worked at the behest of a Ukrainian security agency to censor Americans on social media, particularly in the days and weeks after the start of the Russia-Ukraine war. So I'm just going to pull up here the executive summary of this report and read a little bit from it. On February 15th, 2023, as part of its investigation into the federal government's role in censoring lawful speech on social media platforms, the Committee on the Judiciary issued a subpoena to Meta, the parent company of Facebook, and Instagram, and Alphabet, the parent company of Google, and our dear platform that we love very much here right now. Documents obtained in response to those subpoenas revealed that the FBI, on behalf of a compromised Ukrainian intelligence entity, requested and in some cases directed the world's largest social media platforms to censor Americans engaging in constitutionally protected speech online. So here's the FSB, as they say, infiltrating the SBU, which is a Ukrainian agency, requesting content be taken down to the FBI, and then the FBI would pass that request along to the social media platforms themselves. The committee's investigation has revealed that the FBI, federal law enforcement agency responsible for disrupting foreign malign influence, facilitated censorship requests to American social media companies on behalf of the Ukrainian intelligence agency infiltrated by Russian-aligned actors. In doing so, the FBI, they write, violated the First Amendment rights of Americans and potentially undermined our national security. In light of well-documented incidents of the FBI's civil liberties abuses, this new information raises grave concerns about the FBI's credibility as the nation's premier law enforcement organization. Here you can see a calendar that outlines when certain requests were made and to which social media companies they were made to. That is March of 2022. So as you can see, a lot of content moderation requests coming in at that time from the SBU, which is the security service of Ukraine. The committee's analysis of these disinformation registries revealed that the FBI, at the request of the aforementioned SBU, flagged for social media companies like the authentic accounts of Americans, including a verified U.S. State Department account and those belonging to American journalists, one of those being Aaron Mate. The FBI and SBU repeatedly requested the removal or suspension of authentic accounts expressing unambiguously pro-Ukrainian views, as well as those voicing opposition to President Vladimir Putin. That's where the infiltration comes in. And this is one of the things that's so crazy about this story. Not only is it terrifying that you have this chain of influence here, right? Even taking out Russia's influence on the Ukrainian agency, because most of the accounts targeted were what Ukraine would call, anti-Ukraine disinfo. Right. But because of that infiltration, it makes it even more complicated than that. So not only do you have that sort of scary chain of influence, but then when you add to the fact that the Russians infiltrated this group, now you have anti-Russian talking points being censored, which is the opposite of what this Ukrainian agency would want. So not only does it speak to just an Orwellian state of censorship, but also, this was taken from Matt Taibbi's article that he put out about this. He said, this report shows yet again how easily mistakes are made in algorithmic speech policing. Here, for instance, the SBU, the Ukrainian agency, is asking for the takedown of an American who'd replied to an official in the faraway Russian region of Tuva. Here's the offending line. It strikes me as odd at this tragic time of international crisis initiated by Russia's invasion of a sovereign nation, Tuva's highest elected federal official has time to spend arguing with a foreigner trying to convince me that the Ukrainian government and their Jewish president are Nazis. As we saw with the Twitter files, Taibbi writes, the SBU censors were probably searching using keywords, Ukrainian, Nazis, and not bothering to read the content to check the context. So they end up censoring someone who's speaking out for them on their behalf, because the tech companies outsource the job of policing content to these AI algorithm robots. And so there's just a million angles from which you can look at this and say, wow, how fucked up. How fucked up that the censorship is going on in the first place. But also it just speaks to what idiots they are for believing, and by they, I mean the FBI, for believing that these tech companies give a fuck about anything. Tech companies don't give a shit about anything. They don't want to be bothered. That's why people start tech companies. They start tech companies so that they can make money from their PJs in their condo. So they don't have to deal with people or problems or anything. They want to be able to create this like set it and forget it app that just runs on its own, and they get payments in every week. That's all Zuckerberg cares about. It's all Dorsey cares about. To a, perhaps to a lesser extent, it's most of what Elon cares about. They don't want to be bothered with shit. And so, of course, they're not going to take the time to do it right. They're going to let a robot sniff out, oh, okay, well, we got it wrong. Oh, did we take down something from somebody who was saying what you wanted them to say, right? Sanctioned speech by the FBI. Oops, sorry, right? They don't care. So what a mess all the way around.
Well, okay, for one thing, let's plug our friend Matt Taibbi. That is, if you want to see the full article, his Racket Substack. I've been a subscriber pretty much since he started it.
Yeah, it's
good. It's really good. He has another article up where he's been trying to stay out of the Twitter files because of his falling out with the aforementioned God King of Twitter, Elon Musk there. But he just put out a bunch more Twitter files that he had from when he was working with them to help the prosecution in Missouri versus Biden. He's saying he's got a lot more evidence that shows this was clearly government collusion with these tech companies, and further, that the tech companies openly talked about their fear of regulation as the motivation for cooperating, right? Which what can be more dangerous to free speech than that? And in terms of whether they care, I don't agree with that. I mean, these guys definitely have their narcissistic God complex, and they see themselves as hacking society, right? They're coming up with hacks to change the world and make a different future built around the technologies that they're creating or stealing in many cases. But look, man, I mean, how many tweets go out a day? How else would you do it? How many YouTube videos are uploaded? You have to do it with AI, which goes back to, I mean, we just don't believe there should be censorship at all. Like maybe have AIs that flag, the N-word and things like that, and then have a moderator take a look.
Well, that's the thing. They don't invest in the human element. What comes after that appeal where, oh, you did this by accident, right? We hear all the time. Social media companies, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, even the platform we're on now, even Uber. I had that mishap with my facial hair tripping off a selfie sensor. They don't invest in the human beings who actually go in and look at, okay, are these policies of ours being enforced fairly? They don't take that next step because they're fucking lazy. They want easy money. That's why they get into this game in the first place. So yeah, a lot of these guys have big egos. I don't think they have a political ideology. I don't think they're driven to help the FBI root out this information. Look what they had to do to Mark Zuckerberg to get him to police it in the first place. They had to drag him before Congress. During the 2016 election, he didn't want any of this shit. Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to start sniffing out the Trump people and taking down their shit. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of money in his mind.
Well, I was going to say, to the extent that these Silicon Valley guys have an ideology, they're libertarians.
Right.
Ultimately,
their ideology, they want the government off their ass. So they're going to do what they have to do to keep them off their ass.
Well they've got, And Elon is a classic Randian libertarian, right? It's the great entrepreneur who solves society's problems. Right? He can do it better. He's the Ubermensch. He can do it better than society can. And he's going to make it profitable. He's going to make a business out of it. And the government should stay off his back. So really, I mean, they're libertarians insofar as they have an ideology. Of course, they don't care what goes on their platforms. But they care about regulation. And that's been the implicit threat from the beginning. That's really what's allowed the government to intimidate these platforms into taking people down. You think this is where I agree with you. Is there anyone at YouTube who gave a fuck what Alex Jones said? I don't think so.
No, that's why they kept him on as long as they did. They made a lot of money off of him, right? Twitter too, Facebook too, right? They took action when they were forced to, right? And so that's the part of this that the FBI didn't realize. Like, these guys are not actually your allies. They're just mercenaries. They're just doing what they have to do to keep the money coming in for themselves. They're not ideologically committed to whatever fucking shit you're trying to run.
Not the people at the top. I think if you look at the Twitter files, a lot of the libs,
oh yeah, sure,
who are working in the executive, levels, who were interacting with the FBI, I mean, they're clearly like,
oh yeah, Yoel Roth, yeah, he was, he was definitely a believer.
Please clap.